Okay. Well, welcome to everyone who's here today. And I know we got to meet a little bit the other day, but my name is Valerie Carpico, and I'm with the Council of State Governments Justice Center, and officially welcoming you to the Second Chance Act Addressing the Needs of Incarcerated Parents and Their Minor Children kickoff webinar. So now this is the official welcome to say, and talk a little bit about how we'll be working together moving forward. Again, my name's Valerie Carpico. I'm with the Council of State Governments Justice Center, and you'll get to know me through some of your calls. We'll talk about how I work with you and what I can do to help. So the agenda for today, we're going to do introductions, and then we're going to talk a little bit about addressing the needs of incarcerated parents and their minor children, just an overview. So again, as we get further into project details, we'll talk more kind of one-on-one, but today's just an overview of that. What we're going to do to get started, and then next steps, and then there'll be time for questions and answers. Please know this is a small group. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to use the chat function at any time. Obviously, you can come off mute if you would like. Just again, a reminder that this webinar is recorded and will be shared. So just keep that in mind as one. So introduction. So first, let's talk about a little bit about the Second Chance Act, because that's why you all are here today. The Second Chance Act supports state, local, and tribal governments and nonprofit organizations in their work to reduce recidivism and improve outcomes for people leaving incarceration. The Second Chance Act has supported over $500 million in reentry investments across the country since it passed in 2008, which is really significant, and it's a great opportunity. Passed in 2018, the Second Chance Act, Reauthorization Act, builds and strengthens the initial landmark legislation. So there are some key partners in this grant, as sometimes you hear it referred to as QUAPE, shortened. So there are 6 state, local, and tribal agencies. Your funder is OJJDP, who Kathy Mitchell is on the line. And Kathy, please feel free to hop in at any point in time if you would like to share anything. Training and technical assistance by the Justice Center. So that is me, your technical assistance provider. And the National Reentry Resource Center, American Institutes for Research, which is AIR. So the National Reentry Resource Center has a lot of resources for you as well. So OJJDP is a close partner and actually part of your team on this as well. And their mission is to provide national leadership, coordination, and resources to prevent and respond to youth delinquency and victimization. The office helps states, localities, and tribes develop effective and equitable juvenile justice systems that create safer communities and empower youth to lead productive lives. So Kathy, do you have anything you want to add?
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Thank you. I do not. I'm going to put myself back on mute.
Okay, absolutely fine. The Council of State Governments Justice Center, some of you may have worked with us before, either through this capacity or other capacities, or maybe have even went to our website for resources. But what we do is deliver training and technical assistance for Second Chance Act grantees focused on behavioral health, housing, and family supports. So we offer contact expertise, project management support, and connection to peer network and resources. So at the Justice Center, we help with, again, technical assistance. We provide a lot of peer learning opportunities, which I know when I met some of you a few weeks ago on Kathy's call, and then you received some emails on some learning opportunities. So the Justice Center does produce a lot of content that we'll share specific to your grant track that can be beneficial and helpful, as well as any other resources that we find that we want to share that we think can be helpful or beneficial to your projects or just the work in general that you're doing. Peer learning is probably one of my favorite things, is being able to connect you with other projects and really work with people across the country. So what's already best practice? What do you need help with? What kind of curriculum are they using? How are they implementing that virtually? All of those things are things that I can connect you with others on. Access to experts. So within our organization alone, we have many different areas of expertise: housing, economic mobility, their behavioral health, as was mentioned earlier. So if you need connected to someone else, we can do that. We also use some outside consultants. I know we work with Rutgers University and other places to help provide subject matter experts. So we also can connect with those as well. And that's really just a great benefit to having this grant and working on this project, because it really opens the doors to a lot of resources for your project. And again, resources and tools. So the Justice Center does have a lot of resources, tools, content, publications that we have that could be a great resource to you. And if we don't have them, we can find them. So we'll make sure that we connect you to what you need, again, for successful project implementation and development. So when I said we'll get to know each other very well over these next 3 years, I was being serious, because over the next few months and on, part of my role in this is to provide monthly calls to grantees and your team, site visits when safe to do so. We're hoping that those can reconvene at some point in time. Obviously, right now with COVID, those are not happening. However, we can do some virtual site visits if needed. Peer learning connections, resources, and P&I stands for Planning and Implementation Guide, which I'll talk about later in the presentation. Just to share a little bit about the National Reentry Resource Center, AIR operates the NRRC as a collaborative project of BJA and OJJDP. Its mission is to advance the knowledge base of the reentry field. So I will say the NRRC has a bunch of wonderful information on it too. So I would definitely check them out if you haven't yet, to find a lot of great information. And they're also the hub for our Second Chance Act Month that will be coming up in April as well. So officially, congratulations to all of our grantees. So I know everybody got to hear, who was on the call the other day. We have Milwaukee, Oregon, Dartmouth. I hope I said that right. I was thinking, I'm not exactly sure how to, no, I didn't say it right. I didn't think so. I apologize. I'll work on that.
It's Dartmouth.
Dartmouth. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Correct me if I misspeak, please. Dorchester, Alabama Department of Corrections, and the City of New York. So being of 6 grantees selected, this is a really big deal. So when we say congratulations, don't take that lightly. The work you've put in to write and be awarded this is really a great achievement for the areas that you're in, and it's going to be wonderful for the people and families you serve. So I'm going to have a poll launch here, and interested to know if anyone has ever previously received an OJJDP award. And if so, have you previously received a Second Chance Act Award? Just interested to know who has been involved previously. I think we're good. Keisha, we could probably end the poll. Okay. So it looks like a good amount of you have had previous experience with Second Chance Act and or OJJDP. So I'm hoping that's a benefit to you, that you kind of know what some of the expectations are with your award moving forward. There's one that hasn't, and that's absolutely okay. And really that's what I'm here for, to help walk you through that process. Okay. So this program supports activities that foster positive family engagement between incarcerated parents and their children within detention and correctional facilities, and implement programs and services that support the children of incarcerated parents to reduce the likelihood of antisocial behaviors and future involvement in the justice system. The goal of this program is to assist states and localities in developing or expanding services that meet the needs of incarcerated parents and their minor children to prevent violent crime, reduce recidivism, and provide support for minor children. Some objectives: provide support to facilities for staffing, equipment, tools, and resources to create child-friendly visitation spaces, develop safety protocols and procedures for children who are visiting with their incarcerated parents, and develop programs and services that support the needs of incarcerated parents and their children. Some deliverables: implement strategies that strengthen the relationships between incarcerated parents and their children while maintaining safe facilities, provide services that meet the needs of children of the incarcerated parents, and provide reentry and transitional services for incarcerated parents that focus on parental responsibility. Partner with agencies and service providers to develop and expand evidence-based practices. Provide training for correctional officers to include safeguarding children and families visiting incarcerated parents, and support the delivery of community-based services to meet the needs of minor children with an incarcerated parent. So here's where we're at. You have your award, and you're most likely probably meeting at this point in time with your implementation team. And if you don't have one, I'd highly recommend convening an implementation team to help. So in the planning process, what we do is we say the first 6 months, sometimes a little bit longer, we're in that planning process. So no one expects you to be out the gate running right away. So you have your implementation team, you're looking at your deliverables that you wrote into your project, and really how are you going to start to achieve them? What needs to be in place? What partners need to be involved? And that's part of my job too, is to make sure on these calls that as part of your team, making sure, you guys are on track with your goals and objectives, making sure that if you're struggling, maybe to have a partner involved, or maybe something you didn't think of that I'll bring to your attention to say, have you thought about maybe talking to them, or, getting them involved in your project? That's my role. Working with partners and TA coach to complete the planning and implementation guide, and then submitting the planning and implementation guide to OJJDP for review. The planning and implementation guide, I will be very clear, is not a requirement of this project. It is a wonderful tool, though, to help keep you on track in mapping out your project and making sure that everyone is on track with what everyone should be doing in this project. I always tell people, the more you have involved in your planning and implementation team, the better off your project's going to be. Oftentimes where you see struggles and challenges, and it's when you have one person trying to do it all. It's hard for one person to do it all, especially right now. The challenges we face with shutdowns and openings and staff shortages, the things we're facing, it really does take a whole team of individuals to get this work done. The planning and implementation guide. So let me talk a little bit about that. You may have filled one out previously, and it may look a little bit different than what it's looked in the past. And on our call, I will share that with your team, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward. So the guide is meant to stimulate discussion among the project team to develop cohesive goals, approaches, and problem solving. A lot of this guide as well keeps everybody on the same page to make sure that everybody understands what should be happening, what those deadlines look like. Do you need certain funding? Those type of things are discussions that we'll have around it. It helps assess potential implementation challenges and identify options for overcoming barriers. So maybe there's a facility that you want to go into, but maybe no one's on the team, or you're not having contact with that facility. We're going to strategize on how to work through that. Identify what information will be collected and how it will be used. So do you have an evaluation component of your project? Or even if you don't, what type of things are you collecting for your performance measures, and maybe beyond? Maybe you want to look beyond that and expand what other type of data you can be collecting. Informs the development of an individualized TA plan for each grantee. So what you'll do is work with me on developing a plan with some goals and objectives on how we achieve what your project said it will achieve. Serves as an evolving plan and will be revisited over the course of the project. So this is a document that I always like to tell people I like to work on together. And then what I like to do is visit this every so often, every 6 months or so, to make sure that we are on track. And I found this guide is very beneficial, especially if some folks throughout the project may leave and then new folks come in, to kind of go back and revisit what's been done, who's been contacted, and just you have more information at your fingertips. So the planning and implementation guide, is broken up into 5 different sections, and it is in an Excel sheet, and it's pretty user-friendly in my opinion. The first section of it is the points of contact and approval. So that's pretty easy. You're looking at who is your financial point of contact, who's your grant administrator. I know Kathy hit on that on her webinar, which I think is very helpful for people to understand that there is difference in roles. And it's especially important when you're dealing with just grants and reporting on who has what role. Team roles and partners. So this is where I'm really looking at who's on your implementation team, do you have an advisory committee, who needs to be involved. If you're saying you're going to serve 5 different jails, you probably should have someone from those facilities involved in that process. It's hard to make plans on what you're going to do in a facility if you don't have the facility at the table. So just kind of thinking further outside the box to make sure that nothing is missed as you're planning for your project. Another suggestion on the team roles and partners, really suggest, if you can, and this isn't always possible, with this grant track, what we've found and kind of lessons learned, if there's a way to involve any type of caregiver or even a person with lived experience, we find a lot of the challenges behind this current project have been engaging the caregiver. And if you don't have the caregiver engaged, it's really hard to have the kid attend visits or be involved with the parent. So it's nice to get some perspective in the planning process from someone that's experienced this. Not mandatory, just a TA suggestion for you. Evidence-based practices and activities. So this is where we talk about, what are you implementing in your facility? Are you doing PIO, seeking safety? What evidence-based practices are you doing? As well, activities. How are you getting program participants? Are you relying on the facility to give you names? Do you have a social worker? How are you getting participants into your program? How are you screening them? What are your guidelines for screening? Do you rule out folks with domestic violence charges, or can anyone participate? Do they have to be returning to a particular county, or can they be returning to anywhere in the state? So again, those are just all things to think about as we move forward. And those are things that we'll talk about when we are on our calls. Evaluation plan. So if you do have an evaluation plan, not everybody will. This is just something to think about. Who are your partners in that evaluation? What's being measured? It's really important to know that up front. So when you get to the end, it's hard to go back and try to recreate data that's not there. So you want to make sure, if you do have an evaluation plan, you're talking with that evaluator early on what needs collected for a good evaluation, when their evaluation process will stop throughout the project. That's also important to know, when data would stop being collected, just all of those things regarding evaluation. And sustainability efforts is optional. So I always like to talk about sustainability and what you're doing. So much work goes into these projects, and so many good things come out of them for families, for facilities, for communities. So it's great if you have a way to maybe you even implement a new policy or procedure regarding the way you do visits in your facility, or a new partnership grows out of it. So it's even just beyond, if you will, a lot of people, when they think sustainability, think about money particularly. Money may play a part in it, but there's a lot of other things that you can do to sustain best practices within your facility or the facility you're working with. Next steps. So I'm pretty sure that most of you have your monthly call set. I think I still need to respond to one more person who did get back to me, but set up your monthly call. So our first call, we'll talk about getting a set calendar meeting to meet monthly. So the meeting that we sent originally is not necessarily needing to be your monthly meeting time. At those monthly meetings, just something to think about. Sometimes folks invite the whole team. Sometimes it's just kind of the implementation team, and as things grow, they build off of it. Sometimes people occasionally have other people attend. It really is what you want to do. I'm a resource to you, so know that. So that's the time to let me know like what you need, if there's any challenges or struggles. And you may have those during the implementation process or even further within your project, and just know that's okay. But that's what we're here for, is to help you with those things. So I'll review your proposal and identify any needed modifications. Normally what I'm going to do is I'm going to read your project narratives that you submitted, and we're just going to talk about that and what that looks like. Sometimes between when people write projects and implementation, some things may change. And if they change, that's okay. But if any modifications are needed to your project at any point in time, you do need to reach out to Kathy via email, let her know what you would like to propose to change, and then go from there. I do not have any type of approval with changes made to your projects, but I'll try to make sure to get you in a really good place for when you reach out to Kathy, that there's a clear understanding of those changes and what you want to do and why. And again, just work with CSG Justice Center towards the completion of the planning and implementation guide. I'll work with you on that. I'll review it. I can enter stuff in. I'll help you as much as I can. It's not meant to be extra work for you. It's really meant to be a tool to help guide your project. So with that being said, we are at the questions and answers part. If anyone has any questions, feel free to either drop them in the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask them, please do so. Like I said, during the first calls or so, we'll get more into the project specifics. I also plan on getting out some summaries to all the projects so you kind of know what everyone else is doing as well. I will tell you, you're joining a team of 29 other QUIP grantees. So we have fiscal year 18, 19, and 20 currently working on projects. So now you're a mighty team of 35. So there's a lot of resources out there. Mindy, yeah, I do have it available, and I'm more than happy to send that out. I didn't want to send it prior to the meeting because, again, I didn't want to overwhelm anyone. But I'm happy to get that to you if you would like that. And it's not online. I have it and can send that out. You're welcome. Does anyone else have any questions at all? Kathy, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I think you've covered everything really well. Thanks, Val. Just to reiterate that, as Val mentioned, she's going to be really great about helping you with your program activities, evaluation, sustainment, and any questions around your strategic partnerships, your community partnerships. If you have a task force or a working group, if you're experiencing difficulty with data collection, or you just have general questions about performance and evidence-based practices, she's going to be a resource for that. If you have any questions about federal reporting, about just grants, about allowability of funds, about budget matters, about reporting, about due dates and deadlines. If you want to make any changes to your project, be it your scope, your budget, hiring, or even changing the title of your project, those questions can come to me. In some cases, Val will also be helpful if you have any questions about the types of projects or positions you should be hiring for. And I realize this might be a gray area, determining where her role starts and mine stops, or vice versa. So one thing I always tell grantees, which is the easiest thing to do, is just always copy both of us on emails. If you have a question, but you're not really quite sure if it's a question for training and technical assistance, or if it's a question for OJJDP, you can always just send an email and one of us will respond.
Great, Kathy, thank you. Yes, and I may have mentioned this on Kathy's call. If you do have any of those questions, don't feel that that's a negative thing. Please reach out. You know, feedback from other projects have been, you know, that Kathy and myself want you to succeed and want your program to be amazing. So we're here as part of your team to support you in that. So if there is something that you're not sure, yes, send both of us an email and we will make sure to address it. And there are oftentimes you may ask me something. I get this often, especially around reporting time, where folks are asking me questions where I really have to refer you to the help desk or your program manager, because those are things that are really out of my scope, but I can definitely point you in the right direction. I will say for Just Grants, there is a lot of great YouTube videos online to watch that kind of walk you through stuff. I know you all have been through training, but there's a lot of good resources on the website to use as well. But you know, when in doubt, ask. We'll be here to support you through that process. Any other questions at all? All right, well, I am looking forward very much to working with all of you and excited for our first call. And I'll work on having that planning and implementation guide out. And in the meantime, no, please reach out at any point in time to me, even if you think it's a silly question. There's no silly question, especially as you're getting started and moving. Let me know whatever you need, and I'll do whatever I can to help you guys. But I'm excited to get started, and I will see everyone soon. Thank you. Have a great day.